The weight of dignity, they shoved him aside in front of everyone like he was dirt beneath their boots. Not because he had done anything wrong, but because his black skin and slow, deliberate steps made him an easy target for their contempt. The officers barked orders at him, ripped through his belongings as if dignity was some luxury he'd never earned. Every second dragged on under the sterile fluorescent airport lights, 1,000 indifferent eyes pretending not to notice. Some snickered, some looked away, but no one stopped them, and no one knew that the man they humiliated was the kind of quiet storm that levels everything in its path. And by the time the truth rose from the ashes of their arrogance, those who laughed would be left scrambling for what was left of their pride. Langston Reed, a 75-year-old widower with a spine carved by decades of silent resilience, clutched the worn handle of his brown leather travel bag as he made his way across the polished marble floor of Western Gateway International Airport. Each step was a negotiation between aching joints and the resolve of a man who never learned to complain. Travelers in stylish suits and sneakers flowed past him, a fast-moving stream around a stubborn rock that would not budge. His destination, Gate C-39, a flight that would take him to Atlanta to visit his great-granddaughter on her 7th birthday. She had written him a letter in blocky crayon, demanding that Papa Langston bring his famous stories and those butterscotch candies only you got. So he came, despite his arthritis, despite the stiffness in his knees, despite how air travel had become more of a gauntlet than a convenience. As he approached the security checkpoint, a young officer with a buzz cut and badge that gleamed like he polished it for attention barked, "You, sir, step aside." Langston paused. "Is there a problem, officer?" The officer, Michael Cutter, didn't answer. He waved to another guard, a woman named Krista, who strolled over, tapping her baton against her gloved palm. "You heard him." "Secondary screening," she said flatly, as though his presence alone warranted suspicion. That Langston's face tightened, but he said nothing. He'd been in this world long enough to know which hills were worth dying on. He moved slowly toward the designated area, eyes forward, pride intact. They made him lay out his belongings like a criminal under investigation. His dress shirts, perfectly folded, a tin of peppermints, a hardcover book titled The Souls of Black Folk, his toothbrush in a Ziploc bag. "Probably hiding something under all this neatness," Michael muttered. Krista laughed. "Bet he doesn't make it to his gate before sunset." Langston didn't flinch. He'd seen men laugh like that before, on sidewalks in Selma, behind badges in Mississippi, at lunch counters where dignity was the only thing on the menu they couldn't stomach. They patted him down roughly, jabbing the baton against his ribs, dragging it along his legs. When he stumbled slightly, Michael smirked. "Careful, Grandpa. Don't fall." Langston steadied himself. He adjusted his grip on the suitcase. His hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from holding in everything he could have said. They ushered him to a secondary room. Private. No windows. Metal walls. One table. One chair they didn't offer him. "Open the bag again." Krista snapped. He complied. She rifled through his things, her hands less searching than punishing. She pulled out a small metal object, his bookmark. Silver, in the shape of an oak tree. A gift from his granddaughter. "What's this?" she asked sharply. "A bookmark," Langston replied. "Looks sharp. Might be considered a weapon," Michael added. Langston's stare remained unmoved. He didn't blink. They kept him there. Minutes turned into an hour. No explanations. No apologies. Just smirks and whispering jokes from behind the glass. A young staffer named Melissa hovered by the door, more interested in her phone than the man they were breaking by inches. He asked softly, "May I call my family? Let them know I've been delayed." "Not authorized," she mumbled without looking up. Later, she tossed a water bottle across the floor. "Here," she said mockingly. "Don't say we never gave you anything." Langston stared at it for a long time. Picking it up wasn't surrender. It was survival. He took a sip. Just enough. Never more than needed. Outside, the airport buzzed with business as usual. Families hurried to gates. Lattes steamed in plastic cups. But behind those walls, a war of pride was being waged, and Langston refused to lose. Unknown to the guards, his name had just triggered an alert in the airport's VIP clearance database. Valerie Monroe, a junior systems coordinator on shift in the operations control center, froze as his name appeared on her screen. Langston J. Reed, Tier 1 clearance, contributor to the National Aviation Security Development Fund, major funder behind the very security infrastructure these officers thought they were protecting. She rushed the file to her supervisor, Darnell Briggs. The old man looked at the screen, then back at her. "You're telling me they've been roughing up Langston Reed?" "Yes, sir." Darnell's face darkened. "Get the chief. Now." Within minutes, the atmosphere shifted. Radios buzzed. Doors opened faster. Footsteps pounded the floor. Inside the holding room, Langston remained still until Melissa's voice cracked. Mr. Reed? Sir? You're free to go." Langston picked up his suitcase and walked past her. No words. No satisfaction. Just quiet, unshakable grace. Valerie saw him from across the hall. Their eyes met. She nodded once, he nodded back. By the time he reached the executive lounge, the news had already spread. No press conference. No headlines, yet. But 1,000 whispers filled the halls of Western Gateway. Langston sat in the corner of the lounge and placed a call to his assistant. "This is Reed. Suspend all current funding to Western Gateway. Begin full review." "Understood, sir." Back at the checkpoint, Cutter and Krista were called into separate rooms. Suspensions. Investigations. The HR rep didn't even look them in the eye. "I didn't know who he was." Michael protested. "That's the problem," came the answer. "You thought it mattered." Krista wept in silence. Security Chief Thomas Beckett, a 30-year veteran, was summoned by the board. "You placed this airport at legal and reputational risk," said the chairwoman. Beckett lost his position, his pension pending review. By nightfall, news broke. Major airport under fire for discrimination against prominent donor. The footage showed Langston walking with quiet dignity through the concourse. Media circled like sharks. The story exploded online. Not because he ranted, not because he sued, but because he didn't have to. The truth had a voice of its own. Langston received letters from teachers, veterans, teenagers. They called him Sir, Mr. Reed, Elder, Hero. He responded to none publicly, but saved them all. A few months later, on a sunny fall morning, Langston stood at the dedication of a new community center built in his honor. Children ran across the lawn. A plaque at the entrance read, "Dignity is not given. It is claimed." Langston Reed never told the full story of what happened at Western Gateway. He didn't need to. The world had already heard it and remembered. The end.